What up, 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 what up? I bit my tongue earlier. Oh, that's up to you. I'm gonna run downstairs real quick. I'll be right back. Let me see. Mm. How much for a portrait? It all depends on if it depends on if you want one of my portraits or if you want me to do something for you. Like my own personal art is hella expensive. My paintings sell for like 7, 8 grand. But if you want me to do a commission for you, they'll be a lot cheaper. And I price my art 2 different ways because it's just a thought process that goes into it. So this piece I'm working on now, this is a commission for a friend of mine. It's a painting of his father. So it's like with my own paintings, my own projects, I have to come up with a concept, an idea, a way to visualize that idea. If it needs models, I have to find a model, I have to pay the model, I have to photograph the model, and do all of that before I can start painting anything. But with a commission, you give me a picture, I paint the picture. It's way simpler. I don't have to think of anything. I don't have to come up with any, complex concepts of what I'm trying to interpret. You know what I'm saying? It's just you give me a picture, I paint it. That's way cheaper than buying a piece of my own imagination, something, an idea that I came up with or something that I created. So in order for you to purchase one of my own paintings, you're actually buying a little piece of me. You're buying my ideas, you're buying my concepts, and which is interpreted into my art. So I think my own ideas and my own personal concepts are more expensive. So I charge hella into the thousands for that. Now, if you just want to give me a picture and of your dog or your sister or your wedding photo, I don't have to think about nothing. I can look at it and start painting. And so for my commissions, they start at $400. Like no matter what I do, I don't touch a brush for anybody for less than $400. But even for a $400 canvas, you're gonna get a really, really good painting. Now my $400 canvases are small, and you can only get a painting of one person with no background or nothing to it. If you want to get a larger canvas like this and have all this background and everything going on in it, the price will go up, and it can get pricey, but it'll still be a lot cheaper than trying to buy one of my own original paintings. And this isn't a small canvas. Like standing next to me, it's 4 feet by 3 feet. So I'm not going to tell you what I'm charging my client for this, but it's not $400, I can tell you that. For a piece this size with as much detail in it as it is, this is a really expensive commission. Most of my commissions don't normally reach prices like this because on average people don't want a canvas this big. Most people don't have enough space on their wall to hang a canvas this big, or just can't afford it. So that's why I try to keep my prices reasonable so that as many people as possible can purchase my art and own my art if they want to. Maybe. I just let you know it ain't. This piece right here not cheap, and I'm in Pennsylvania. My homeboy lives in South Carolina, so you gotta pay for your shipping too. I don't pay for shipping, so you gotta pay me for the painting, and you gotta pay the shipping fees to get it to you. So just shipping a canvas this size all the way down the East Coast, that tax a little bit of extra money onto his final bill as well. But my homie got it. Actually, this is the second painting he's gotten from me. The first painting he got was on the same size canvas, and it was a painting I did of his mother when his mom passed away. And now his dad has passed away, so he has me doing this one of his dad. Like I said, they're not cheap, but the quality of it, and everybody knows the saying, you know, good shit ain't cheap and cheap shit ain't good. So if a motherfucker tell you, oh, I can paint that for $200, you know what? You're gonna get a $200 painting, and it's gonna look like a $200 painting. Now, if you want some hotness, something that when your friends and family walk in the house, that's the only thing they gonna talk about. Like, damn, where you get that from? Oh shit, that shit hot. Who did that? Oh my God, I want one. Now, if you want people to say that when they see your painting, you're gonna have to pay more than $200. Graffiti. I've tried graffiti before. It's not my thing. I have in my little cabinet back here, I have tons of cans of spray paint, and sometimes I'll put like little graffiti in my art, even add spray paint to my canvases sometimes. But like going out and tagging buildings and tagging train cars and stuff like that, I did that when I was a young boy and never really got into it like that. But I know some hellified graffiti artists. I have a lint in my hair. Come here, lint. What I need to do is clean off my palette and put some browns and reds and yellows up there, because I'm going to work on his skin and put one more layer of paint over his skin tones. Just got off work, got work in the morning, haven't eaten dinner yet, so I'll probably only be here for like an hour or so maybe. Try to get a little bit done, go eat some dinner, take my ass to bed. Take my ass to bed, cause yeah, that's the life of a grown man, yeah. We work until we hurt our hands. Then I come home and try to do a handstand, cause this whole world is upside down, and I try to turn my frown into a smile, but Only thing that calms the beast is when I'm in the studio, when I'm blowing them trees, and then I get my mind clear, yeah, my mind at ease, and I grab a paintbrush, start flowing the breeze, cause I mix them colors, and I do it hella better, man, like no other, cause they call me the Prince, that's my real last name, yeah, that's legit, and cause you guys are on TV. So I use the PlayStation. Pick your PlayStation up, get your YouTube app, and start a YouTube channel. Now you got your own reality TV show. Oh yeah. Cutting edge technology. Yeah. You follow me? Cutting edge technology. Yeah. I follow you, you follow me, and man. Do I do tutorials? Kinda, but not really. Like if I teach classes, I give my students tutorials on what I want them to do, but in here, not so much. I do have a Patreon channel. It's a paid subscription. You only have to donate $1 a month, but if you want to get tutorials on drawing and how I start paintings, you'll have to pay to see that. This is a free YouTube channel. Everybody can come in here and watch me act goofy and paint a little bit, but I don't go into a lot of detail as to the techniques and how I blend my paints, how I apply my paints to the canvas or anything like that. I say for more in-depth details like that, you're gonna have to go to my Patreon channel. I do give classes though. I've been giving classes on Saturdays at a local library, but I have so much stuff coming up in the next couple of weeks that I'm not gonna be able to have classes. Oh yes, and normally my classes are for kids, middle school, high school kids. Don't ever give up. Don't be like me and fall for the peer pressure. When people say, "Oh, drawing's for girls. Oh, art is for faggots. Oh, that's some sissy ass shit. You're always drawing." Like, don't ever let that discourage you, because boys are supposed to play football and basketball, and especially the ones who have a natural talent. Like if you're just naturally good at it and that peer pressure gets to you, I want to be that art teacher that says, man, fuck what everybody else says. You like art, you like art. Do that shit. Go hardcore with it. And be the best artist you can be. Every boy don't have to play fucking football. You ain't gotta play basketball. You can sit around and draw and paint.
The all-new BMW 3 Series.
Oh no, no, it's a free event. Anybody can just walk in here. Anybody can come. You gotta keep it inspired. All you gotta do is keep it with supplies. Keep it inspired. Keep it with supplies. So she can make that art. I can see it in her eyes. She got that talent, and it came from the sky. That's a God-given gift, and I cannot lie. Man, I love to paint shit. Man, I love to draw in. If I start spitting anguish, yeah, I'm gonna fall. But I take all my stress out. You can have it all, cause I changed to a pretty portrait. Yeah, I'm gonna ball in like, Let me grab some paint, and let me think, man, what I'm gonna do next, yeah. Anything I can see, man, anything I can be, yeah. And they try to beat me, that's that T-R-A-P. It's the original, that's an OG. You can't do it like this, boss. I lost it. Ooh. That inspiration. Oh. Boom. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, I keep on painting. Yeah, I keep on painting. I'm rhyming and singing like pictures worth 1,000 words. I done flew 1,000 birds. I done smoked 1,000 herbs. Kick them chickens right to the curb. Hey. Bum 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 bum. Yeah, I got them details. This shit ain't for resale. So he tell that she sells some seashells. What? By the seashore. But some nursery rhymes on your ass. What? Stop playing. Don't make me hit a nursery rhyme on you. She sell seashells by the seashore. Oh yeah, you get updated. Oh, man, I took that trap house entertainment, now it's art and education. We not complacent, we always gon' change in them new situations. I hang with the big ones, I'm learning, I'm teaching. Yeah, I'm about to lit one, and that means it's burning. I'm turning, concerned with my people, this movement. Yeah, we gotta use it, cause Misha, see, I'm in the studio, and yes, this a freestyle just for you, and so keep it moving, gotta push it more, cause I made this fucking iron sculpture, I did some more, man. I'm casting and molding and blowing, that furnace is hot and I'm going, I'm throwing that coal in, make that fire bigger, my desire cannot figure, cause I'm trying to touch on everything, and my life is good. so I can't complain. And I'm getting brain. Yeah, I'm getting brain because I read a lot of books and do a lot of things. I'm getting brain. I'm getting brain. Look, read a lot of books and do a lot of things. I'm getting brain. Yeah, I'm getting brain. A lot of books, a lot of things. I'm getting brain. Oh, I'm getting brain, and I find it easy to maintain if I keep that stressing and to stay right in my lane. I ain't trying to do the same thing that them lames do. I'm trying to do something new, but there's nothing new under the sun. It ain't what you do, it's how it's done. Hey, babe. I already know she got shot. Somebody tried to rob her. Nigga, I asked you that like 5 days ago. I meant to call you back and tell you. I just texted Willie and asked him himself, like, yo, what happened? Like, yo, she got shot. Some motherfucker tried to rob her, but they caught the dude and everything. I ain't want to go into more detail. Yeah, he said they say he got him. I ain't want to go into more details, like where she got shot at. You know how, like, you know, that shit kind of like tender right now. So. Yeah. Oh, you already know. The news is the news. What you doing? Huh? Huh? I'm scared. I'm scared of Dez, man. I ain't gonna lie. Huh? I can see men that nigga. I can see men that nigga getting in the fight, yo. Like, I wouldn't kill him, but just how you talk about him. And I haven't been around him in so many years. It's like, man, he need discipline and structure, and he ain't gonna be able to take that from me. And I ain't gonna be able to have him buck up at me not one time, yo. I already know it, like not even once. And Jarrell coming up here Saturday. Yeah. I'm on YouTube Live right now. I ain't on all our business out there like that, but let me do my little paint. Yeah, let me do my little paint thing. I love you too. Bye. When I talk about this pain, man, that shit is so real, I can barely explain. When I talk about this pain, man, that shit is so real, I can barely explain. Make me want to kill a nigga. Hey, I should have been a singer. I should have been a singer. I should have been a singer. Sing about my anger like ooh, ooh, ooh. Damn, my vocals sound delicious. And I should have been a singer. Oh my God, I done let too much paint dry up on here. I ain't gonna get nothing done tonight but clean this damn palette. Why you let it sit so long? Cause I was busy. Oh my God, some of these paints are wet, but they in the way. In the way. Hey, somebody want to come do this for me? Damn.
Should be simple.
Man, commercials should be non-existent. Yo, if I want your product, I'll seek your product. I'm not about to sit here. What? Some beautiful paintings and a cubby corner freestyles and a couple of corny freestyles is what I meant to say. Actually. No.
Explanation is also ran out. That's the two most deadly things that can happen when you're exploring something, is when you run out of ideas and are willing to accept anything rather than acknowledge that the right answer is, I don't fucking know. When you get more comfortable with those two things, all of a sudden you stop reaching the conclusion, God did it. Magic Man done it. It's the doctor. He went back in time, inspired those people to write those predictions because he knew what was going to happen. Oh, Matt, you're being so silly. Why would you bring up, Doctor Who and sci-fi and everything? How is that any less silly? All right, time travel may in fact be impossible, whereas the supernatural we can't show is impossible. So maybe it is more silly.
Dude, that is above my pay grade, that piece. But I'm sorry, I'm just watching the live chat and all of the different prophecies that are being written about you and I right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing.
Are we going to do it? Is that a prophecy yet?
We'll be in a second.
Okay.
All right, let's move
Because
on.
we're not. Anyway, where are we going?
Oh, what is that?
Let's go with Brandon in Arizona.
Brandon in Arizona. Welcome to the Hang Up Show.
Cut this sexual tension.
You hung up on me before, Matt.
Oh.
Yeah, that's how that goes.
I tell you what then, to be fair, since I've done all the hanging up and hung up on you before, I won't hang up on you. I will let you hang up or Eric will hang up on you.
I have the button.
Sure.
I'm not afraid.
So anyway, what's up? Let's see if we can go a little lighter.
One thing that drives me a little bit, gets me aggravated sometimes is, I know your view on, the Bible condoning slavery and everything, but I just want you to go back to Genesis with Joseph. When Joseph saved everybody from 7 years of famine, that's when all of the Egyptians and the Hebrews sold themselves as property and that's what put the Hebrew children into bondage, which you consider slavery. Bondage and slavery are two different words. That's why in the King James Bible, the word slave occurs one time and the word slavery occurs one time.
In English. In English, and also there's no evidence that Jewish enslavement in Egypt ever occurred.
I've never gotten a pleading look from Matt.
Well, there's a documentary you should check out on the what's it called? It's the Evidence for Exodus.
Yeah, there's a book.
Check that out.
There's a book that you should check out that also goes through this, because the sort of evidence that would confirm that Jews were enslaved in Egypt does not exist. There is not commonality in culture, in language.
They found Joseph's tomb.
Oh my God!
They sure did.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
Yeah, they did.
No! Stop! How do you know it's Joseph's tomb?
Well, it's actually not like it's a monument it's like a monumental tomb of Joseph.
How do you know?
Because it has Hebrew clothing on it, and the Egyptians made sure that everybody identified that this specific leader of the Egyptian people was a Hebrew.
I thought Moses was the leader while they were in Egypt.
But we're talking about, because Joseph was a leader in Egypt. He was right under Pharaoh, if you recall, in Genesis.
Okay.
So, but this is how, the Bible never, ever condones slavery. In fact, man-stealers are put to death.
You bastard! Come on!
No.
Oh.
No, we've done slavery today, and you're not going to come on here and say the Bible never condones it, and then go to the man-stealing verse. Because man-stealing is illegal, and that means you can't steal somebody else's fucking slaves. I swear.
Okay.
Just
Drake in
read
Florida.
some other fucking book other than the Bible. Read any book other than the Bible. I've read a book.
Drake.
Go ahead.
Hello.
Drake, I am pinning my hopes on you.
Wait, I was in a good mood when
We're gonna have a pleasant hang up at the end of this, and this is gonna be
You're not
good.
gonna hang up on me. We're gonna say
That's right.
bye.
Right.
Goodbye.
Yeah, no,
No, I'm kidding. I want to pause for a second, Drake, because I really feel like I need to explain this. Legitimately,
your conversation before.
legitimately, I'm in a good mood today. I know it doesn't necessarily appear so, because
I've watched dozens of your shows. I binge watched them over the past couple of weeks. I kind of got a feel for your mood.
Dang.
I didn't mean that as an insult.
no, I didn't take it as an insult. I'm just saying, for the people who are like, Matt's all extra crusty today.
Fired up.
I'm open to having anybody. If somebody, we have mountains of calls here that said they had evidence for God.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly how many? And
That shit look clean. I'm fucking this shit up, bro. But it's purposely that way, because this is my studio. This is the 3rd floor in the house. I got that room over there. That's like storage. I got some canvases and some other art supplies over there. The whole hallway. And then this whole room is mine. So I don't care about the carpet. I recarpet the whole house, and then when I noticed this carpet up here, I was like, this carpet isn't even that bad. And then, if I recarpet it, I definitely don't want to paint on it. But then one of my homies said I should try to keep it nice anyway, just so when I go to sell this motherfucker, that'll be something else. At least these carpets up here still be kind of clean. I might shampoo them and put something over it before they get too bad, because I am fucking them up slowly but surely. All right, so what we have done, I only cleaned off a portion of the palette. Here, all of this can stay. Oh shit. So I just put some fresh paints on there. Ooh, it looks so pretty when they come out the tube fresh like that. A little dollop of paint. So we're gonna work on the 3rd and final layer on this painting. So the work I did yesterday was lower to the bottom. I finished up some of the pickets. So I've been working down here, getting these lines straight. I still have some more detailing to do on his foot and sandal right there, but I'm tired of bending down so low, so I'll get to that later. But the pickets are looking good. That lattice work, working on those shadows. From the bottom, how the pickets are at an angle, just trying to get those shadows in there right. Make sure the lines are straight, little shadows in between the pickets. I worked on a little more highlights on the trees in the background. And so the whole canvas now has 2 layers of paint on it. Well, the trees actually got 3 layers of paint already. And some of the windows, some of these blinds already have you can see how much the color tone changes. That's already 3 layers of paint on there. So I'm gonna hop on the skin and started his head, just worked my way down. There's not a lot of it showing. The face and neck. He does have a short sleeve shirt on, so. But his arms are pretty straight. He's not carrying anything or holding anything in his hands and stuff like that. So it shouldn't take me more than a couple of hours to hit this skin again. I'm gonna turn on this other light. Oy. And I just got blue paint on my phone case. That's the thing with me. I have paint on everything.
Some of those who called in to say they had evidence for God acknowledged, well, you can't prove God.
No, you can't.
How is that irrefutable? And when somebody finally said that,
miracles that Jesus Christ did and say a rational explanation for every one of them.
Yeah.
He had learned how to remove cataracts from an eye, and that solved blindness.
So
He set the leg of a broken boy's leg.
oh, you are
To walk again.
no, you're doing the same thing. You're doing the same thing that
I'm not saying
Ryan.
that
You are doing.
Jesus Christ exists. I'm saying there's an explanation, a rational explanation for the crazy miracles that religious people believe.
No, stop. You're doing the same thing that Ryan did, trying to make excuses for something. This is like the people who
No, I'm
stop.
trying to
Drake.
Okay.
This is exactly like the people who say, the Bible says Jesus walked on water. Let's see if we can come up with a rational explanation for it. Well, maybe you can, maybe you can't. But the real question is, did Jesus fucking walk on water? Why would you spend a bunch of time? Stop.
No.
Stop.
Sorry, I'm agreeing with you. He did not walk on water.
But you were talking about
Right.
rational explanations for the removal of cataracts or setting a leg. When we have no reason to think any of those things actually happened, you're trying to find a rational explanation for claims of miracles when we have no evidence that the miracles occurred. So it doesn't matter.
You're being very, very nice right now, Drake. You're being very positive, and you're trying to give the benefit of the doubt to Jesus. But I think the Bible is supposed to stand on its own, and that's why we're so upset. But regardless, you have just been impromptu put as in the position of Matt and my therapist after this last couple of calls, and that's not fair to you. You called in for a reason. What would you like to
studied
talk about?
psychology all my life, so
See, look at
I'm
that.
going to talk about cult deprogramming.
You want to talk about cult deprogram?
An epic new documentary that explores a special bond between humans and dogs.
Now that's something that an idea that someone placed in the X-Men movie. Not the last one that came out, Dark Phoenix or whatever. The one, what was the one before that? X-Men Apocalypse or something, where they had to defeat like the really big bad guy. It was so like an Avengers knockoff, but anyway, that movie. In the beginning of the movie, what was the bad guy's name? Apocalypse? I don't know. Anyway, but in the beginning of the movie, they showed how this dude was getting all these powers and stuff, and he was absorbing energy from other mutants. And this was like they flashed it back all the way to like the Egyptian times, where the pharaohs and all this high priest and all that good stuff. And that is a really good concept, that not necessarily magic, but people who could do certain things were probably looked at as gods because they could do something that people couldn't explain. And then you think about modern cases of anomalies. Like there's this one video clip that was on YouTube. I've watched it like 100 times, no lie. I probably can't find it now, but it's this Tai Chi master, and he sets a piece of newspaper on fire with his energy, like he just put his hand to it and channeled his energy and produced enough heat that started a true flame, like, and set the paper on fire. And he said he had trained himself to channel an electric current through his body where he could, like, zap people, heal people, and, like, I don't know, that's something that everybody can't do. Now, is it a fake video? Some fucking hoax shit or whatever? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, it looked real, it looked credible. But, yeah, somebody look that up now. Tai Chi master sets paper on fire with his hands, with bare hands or something like that, or using chi or something. Man uses chi to set paper on fire. Worded something like that, but. And then I forgot what else I was watching. Probably something else on YouTube. I'm a YouTube junkie. That's why I'm streaming on YouTube. But there was this other video about this little Indian girl who everybody was saying was like psychic or whatever. Had some really, really strong psychic abilities. And so whatever kind of show she was on, they put her to the, like, gave her a little challenge. I think they double blind this little girl, and she was probably like 7 or 8 or something, 8 or 9. But they double blindfold this girl, put like the little, you know, the little sleeping cap or whatever. Now, once again, could this have been all staged and set up? Absolutely. But it looked kind of authentic, and they said it was some real shit. But anyway, put the little sleeping cap on her, and then tied a bandana around that, double blindfolded, and the guy drew a picture. And the girl was blindfolded, and she had a pen, a pencil and paper, and she drew the exact same picture the dude drew. And then he wrote a word or something, and then she wrote the same word. And it was like, well, how do you do it? She's like, I can just, it's like I'm seeing through your eyes. Well, what if back in antiquity, when everything was just more pure, you know, people lived a purer life, a healthier, more organic life, because there wasn't anything fake or preserved or, you know, anything like that. And just being able to train yourself to do things like that, you would be considered a god, or they would call it miracle working or stuff. Oh, it's kind of quiet in here. My bad.
our moral views are very similar. I heard today that science can't tell us anything about morality because you can't put morality in a beaker or a centrifuge. Man, science is so much more than beakers and centrifuge.
Ooh, I'm back time. Yeah. We're gonna get your suds off. Yeah. Hi.
Got Micah and Charlotte. How are you?
Hey, good. How are you doing?
Good.
Pretty good. What'd you call about?
I just wanted to call about the validity of the resurrection of Jesus and how it relates to the origin of life.
Sorry, one more time?
The validity of the resurrection of Jesus and how it relates to the origin of life.
Okay.
And here's my question. Since you're an atheist and I'm a theist, we both kind of have different viewpoints. I believe that the origin of life is supernatural, and you believe that it's natural.
Yes.
And would you agree that, I'm not saying there is evidence that Jesus rose from the dead. If Jesus was dead for 3 days and he rose from the dead, would you agree that would be a supernatural event? And it's not something that we see in the natural world, so therefore it's not science.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's not enough details. See, one of the things is that death isn't extremely well defined. We pull people back from the brink of death.
Yeah.
So I can't say for sure that it would be supernatural. I can say that it would certainly be
Extraordinary.
It would certainly be extraordinary and would seem to be supernatural.
Okay, all right. So if Jesus and all of his cells were dead for 3 days, and somehow his whole entire body was regenerated after 3 days, would you agree that that would be something supernatural? At least something that's not
again,
seen
we don't
in the
know.
natural world.
We just said it would be extraordinary, but we wouldn't necessarily call it.
The fact that something
Supernatural.
hasn't previously been observed doesn't mean that it's necessarily unnatural. What I said when I answered your question is that I don't know what I would consider it. There's not enough information, but I'm willing to grant that that sort of thing might be perceived as supernatural and could in fact be.
Okay. But you would definitely agree, since it's not something that is seen in the natural world, that at this point in time it cannot be considered science, right?
We don't know.
It can't be considered science. See, everything about the phrasing about this is kind of clumsy.
I'm assuming you mean that there wouldn't be a scientific explanation, and the answer is we don't know.
Well, no, there would be. The answer would be no, because we would have the very first occurrence, and we would then need to investigate it in order to determine. So at the time that it occurred, there wouldn't be a scientific explanation. But there's lots of things for which we don't currently have a scientific explanation. That doesn't make them supernatural.
Right, exactly. So if that were to, if Jesus' resurrection were indeed true, it would not be something that would have empirical support. We wouldn't have any scientific theory of how it happened, right?
Well, are you saying that we couldn't use the scientific method to investigate it?
We could, but since it's something that we don't see in that, and what I'm saying is that there is a historical claim that Jesus rose from the dead.
Yes.
Okay.
And since we do not see anything, we don't see men dying for 3 days and resurrecting in the natural world that we have today. Would everyone agree with that?
Yes, I'm
That's
unaware
correct.
of any confirmed case of that happening ever, including Jesus.
Right, okay. So I guess here's the entire point I'm trying to make, okay, is that we both agree that if Jesus did rise from the dead, there is no scientific evidence in the natural world that such a thing that it's actually a natural process, that a man can be dead for 3 days, his cells be dead, and somehow be regenerated after 3 days, okay? So by your own logic...
Hang on. Before we get to my own logic, two quick things. You're saying we agree on something, and then the way you phrase it sounds like it was pre-written and doesn't match what I actually agreed to. And then as far as my own logic, there's just logic. I don't have my own special type of logic.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Based on what you're telling me, that's
Okay.
what I'm saying. Based on what we both agree on, actually.
Okay.
So, but based on what we both agree on and what you just told me, the origin of life when non-living material became living is not science.
No,
And it
that's
couldn't
not.
be even supernatural.
You didn't listen to a
No.
word I said, did you?
No,
I
didn't. You said-
was very, very clear that the mere fact that we haven't observed something before doesn't tell us necessarily that it's supernatural. And the fact that we don't currently have a scientific explanation for something doesn't tell us that it's supernatural.
Right, and even if it's not supernatural, if we don't, for example, if we don't see men resurrecting after 3 days in the natural world, science is what we can observe in the natural world, correct?
Science is the explanations for what we observe in the natural world.
Yeah, it's a method. It's not a body of knowledge.
Theory. It's not necessarily science. That's what a theory is.
Oh.
No, wait. Give me your definition of a theory.
A theory is an explanation that is based on the facts that what we observe. In other words, we have a set of facts, and the theory is what explains those facts.
Right.
But you're aware that theories
it's a broad model.
Are developed from doing science, and that theories are the highest point of science, the graduation point, so to speak.
Right.
That there's nothing higher than a theory in science.
Right, exactly. So what I'm saying is that there are no facts that we have that support the idea that a man can be dead for 3 days and resurrect. In the same sense that there are no facts that support the idea that non-living material can become living.
Yeah, actually there is.
There actually is. There are facts that support that.
All right, so this is the point, okay? If you believe that it's not supernatural, so there's two problems here.
There's more than that.
Yeah.
There's probably quite a few. If the resurrection of Jesus is either supernatural or it's not, there's no facts to support that such a thing can happen, it's the exact same thing with the origin of life.
Except for two things. Number one, you've got a dichotomy there that is, while it's valid, is completely crazy. It's not a way that you want to phrase things. It's either supernatural or we don't have scientific facts. But the thing is, when you're talking about abiogenesis, we do have facts that have been investigated by science. We don't fully understand abiogenesis. We don't understand everything about it, but we have, in the laboratory, demonstrated that it is possible for natural material, by purely natural mechanisms, to give rise to the building blocks of life.
Right. And here's the issue of that. I've actually studied this quite a bit. This whole theory of abiogenesis can't even get to the step of producing a protein. What we can do is...
No. For somebody who's studied this quite a bit, I just...
Yeah.
This is baffling because
let me give an example.
Can't get to the step of producing a protein. Do you realize how much further down the chain a protein is than just the building blocks of living material? That you're objecting to somebody not being able to create a 747.
Right, and I'm assuming you know what a protein is, correct?
Yeah.
Yes. However, I'm wondering why we're going through all of this, because there's a fundamental problem at the base of this. And one of them is this. There is absolutely nothing that we can investigate with regarding the resurrection of Jesus. It's a historical claim. There's no scientific evidence for it. And no, because abiogenesis, we can never say what actually happened, how our life formed, unless we actually find historic evidence to support that. But the process, the scientific investigation of the possibility of abiogenesis demonstrates that it's possible, or that it's not impossible. And therefore, you're not in this situation like you are with a resurrection, where you have no examples of anything like this, something that was living, become dead, and then become living without any sort of action taking place on it.
Right. And what I was going back to is I'm not even on here to say that there is evidence that Jesus rose from the dead.
Okay, because that's what, first of all, that's what the screener says you said. The screener says that you said, I think there's scientific evidence in favor of the resurrection, and I'd like to present it. Was that not true?
Yeah. I think if abiogenesis is true, then it's just as valid that a man possibly could raise from the dead.
Well, I think that if it's demonstrated that abiogenesis can occur, then yeah, it may be possible to demonstrate that there's a scientific method by which somebody who was dead can return to being alive.
Right.
Okay? But that's all still natural, and it doesn't mean that it was likely to have happened in the first century.
Right. And since you were talking about abiogenesis, and I was actually talking about protein, I do have a very simple question.
You haven't seen the sun in like forever, so you search for a beach vacation. Sunny beaches, sandy beach.
Assuming you know what proteins are. In order to get a protein to form the amino acids do not fold themselves into a protein. You understand that, right?
I'm aware of that.
Yes.
Okay. They need a ribosome, correct?
Where are we going, and why are we going there here?
Yeah.
Why aren't you calling science shows?
Well, I just assume the atheists, study science quite a bit.
I am. Here's the thing. No, I'm no expert in any of the science stuff. Jen knows this stuff better than I am, so I should shut up, except for one little thing. How is any of this relevant to whether or not there's a God? Because that's what this is all about, right? You believe there's a God and I don't. Right?
Right. And I think it is relevant because I think I can easily show how abiogenesis is scientifically impossible.
Aha! Now we get to the crux of it. This is why I said there's a big old fat problem at the back end of this. Your position is that abiogenesis is impossible. You are making a claim that something cannot naturally occur. Not that it has not, but that it cannot. Why would you call into a public access TV show with no scientists to make the claim that this is scientifically impossible? Why aren't you publishing papers and actually talking to scientists about this? And why aren't other scientists making the same assertions that you are? Why are they actually investigating to find out whether or not it is possible? And why does the evidence seem to preclude the impossibility of it?
I don't know if I caught everything that you said, but I have spoken to scientists before.
You have what?
I have spoken to scientists before.
Okay, and what did they tell you?
I never got a response.
Oh, yeah, well, they probably were busy investigating how abiogenesis
Which is
occurred.
why this call is over. If you're going to claim that a scientific position, which has not been confirmed, and people are investigating, if you're going to claim that it's scientifically impossible, you need to do it with scientists. Second of all, no, there's no second of all. Thanks for calling.
Actually, he should be having this conversation with your wife. She's in a better position than either of us to talk about
Yeah,
this.
she's at home ripping her hair out right now.
Yeah.
It's just so baffling to me because, first of all, you don't understand the limitations.
Yeah.
That's the key thing here. Science is not about philosophical naturalism, which is the philosophical position that the natural world is all there is. Science is about methodological naturalism, which means that the natural world is all we can address with reason and evidence in our scientific toolkit. That's what science is about. And so science would never assert that abiogenesis is impossible, only that we haven't demonstrated that it is possible. There's this idea called a null hypothesis, which you should look up because you're ignoring it to your peril. And it's allowing you to confuse yourself into thinking that you've come to the conclusion justifiably that this is impossible, therefore God. And that's boneheadedly wrong. Sorry.
Yeah.
Got the coolest garage in the neighborhood.
This is a computer chip designed to emulate how the...
Dang, that hour went by fast.
Hi, I'm Aaron from Living Science Videos. In previous videos, we talked about what some people used to think about what life is and where it comes from. We listed the criteria required to be considered alive, but we didn't really talk about how the first life began or the science behind the origin of life. It is often said that all the conditions for the first production of a living organism are now present which could ever have been present. But if, and oh, what a big if, we could conceive in some warm little pond with all sorts of ammonia and phosphoric salts, light, heat, electricity, etc. present, that a protein compound was chemically formed, ready to undergo still more complex changes. At the present day, such matter would be instantly devoured or absorbed, which would not have been the case before living creatures were formed. Everyone understands that there was once a time when nothing yet lived on this planet, so how did it come about? The short answer is we still don't know exactly how that happened, but that doesn't mean we don't know anything. It's still a puzzle, but we have some of the pieces, enough to know some of the answer. Science can only consider what the evidence indicates, and this is where biology refers to geology. In fact, multiple fields of science overlap to reveal the same pattern. There's a detailed record written in the rocks, literally recorded in stone in the many layers of the geologic column. This history of life on Earth has been well established for centuries and is made more robust with every new discovery. We're not just talking about fossils, but trace indications of changing environmental conditions in different periods down through the ages. According to every ounce of paleontological evidence anyone has ever dug up, the further back in time you look, the simpler and more similar living things appear to be until there are only single cells, and prior to that there's no evident life of any kind at all. There were no primates 100 million years ago, no mammals 200 million years ago, no dinosaurs 300 million years ago, and no land animals whatsoever 400 million years ago. 500 million years ago, there weren't any insects or vertebrates with actual bones, and 600 million years ago, there weren't even the most primitive fish yet. All there are from back that far are things so bizarre we don't know what they are. We've never found any trace of fossils for macroscopic life forms prior to 700 million years ago, but we do have bacterial microfossils covering another 2.8 billion years prior to the first multicellular anythings we've ever found a trace of. The only possible conclusion we can draw from all that is that for the first 80% of the history of life on this planet, the most advanced organisms were merely microbes. It is very rare that anything is ever fossilized, and when that happens, it's usually only the hard parts that leave any impression. We can still find tracks and tunnels of worms and that sort of thing, but not everything leaves trace fossils. The smaller it is, the harder it is to leave a recognizable imprint. So if we're talking about single-celled microbes without any bones or shells or teeth, then circumstances have to be perfect, and we'd have to know exactly where to look, or we wouldn't find any trace of them at all. Stromatolites are a notable exception. Some microbes, like cyanobacteria, live in colonies and leave secretions that catch grains of dust and concrete them, eventually building up these large rock-like structures. These account for some of the oldest fossils in the world, dating back 3.5 billion years. Some stromatolite building microbes use photosynthesis to produce their food, and they can live without oxygen, but they expel oxygen as a waste product, just like plants do today. The abundance of these type fossils all over the world for billions of years before the appearance of multicellular organisms implied that they produced a lot of oxygen, enough to envelop the whole world. Initially, this oxygen was absorbed into the oceans and then into exposed iron on land, turning it into iron ore. But rock layers from 600 million years ago showed that they had finally absorbed all the oxygen they could, and the rest became our atmosphere and our ozone layer relatively quickly. Prior to that, it seems that the atmosphere was made of greenhouse gases that would have been poisonous to us and wouldn't have protected us against solar radiation. However, oxygen is poisonous to most anaerobic organisms, and the new atmosphere would have killed off many primordial life forms. So the world in which life first emerged would have seemed to us like an inhospitable, toxic, volcanic nightmare. It was more chemically active and radioactive, with the moon much, much closer than it is today. It was a much more energetic world, and that may have been the key to cooking up increasingly complex chemicals, eventually leading to life. Some people thought that a single experiment could produce life from simple chemicals, but they didn't realize how complex living cells actually are. This would require multiple processes over a series of different stages. Some of that happens easily. The ingredients which form the most basic cell structures create a phospholipid bilayer automatically upon contact with water due to their combined polarity. Likewise, the function of enzymes and transport vesicles and all other minuscule but critical elements within a cell all conform to physical properties. but we have to start with the right basic chemicals. In order to show whether life could emerge naturally, scientists first had to show that the environment could have derived complex organic compounds out of relatively simple inorganic ingredients, and that this could have happened incidentally within that environment. Stanley Miller and Harold Urey created a sealed artificial atmosphere of water, ammonia, methane, and hydrogen, and they proved that when heated and electronically charged, these would produce amino acids, the building blocks of living proteins. They repeated the experiment with different gases according to different hypotheses for the atmosphere of the prebiotic Earth, and all of them produced amino acids. One of these experiments, called the volcano in a bottle, used chemicals common in volcanic eruptions: carbon dioxide, nitrogen, hydrogen sulfide, and sulfur dioxide. That experiment turned out to produce 22 amino acids and a few other organic molecules. Shortly thereafter, Sidney Fox studied the spontaneous formation of peptides, short chains of amino acid monomers, and he demonstrated that as they dried, they developed into long strings called polypeptides, becoming increasingly complex. Then it was discovered that these could even form in outer space. Fragments of the Murchison meteorite, a 4.5 billion-year-old chondrite that fell to Australia in 1969, were found to contain a great many different types of as yet unidentified molecules of extreme complexity, in addition to simple organic molecules such as sugars, lipids, and nitrogenous bases. It was also found to contain more than 80 acids, some in large amounts. With that established, scientists then had to show how the most important ingredient came about, the extremely complex macromolecule known as DNA. There's another version of genetics called RNA, and activated RNA actually builds DNA. Some viruses don't have DNA, but they do have RNA, and this led many scientists to hypothesize life beginning in an RNA world. RNA and DNA are both made of many times repeated components called nucleotides. It took a while, but researchers have shown how RNA nucleotides could have formed naturally in conditions now expected of the prebiotic Earth. In 2009, organic chemist John Sutherland at the University of Manchester showed how a specific cocktail of relatively simple chemicals became increasingly complex after several cycles of repeated inundation, dehydration, and irradiation. Once the mix became sufficiently complex, after enough repetition, a plausible phosphate was introduced, and the mix spontaneously transformed into ribonucleotides, the precursor of nucleic acids, the building blocks of RNA and DNA. Dr. Sutherland remarked that his laboratory conditions were like the warm little pond which Darwin speculated might be how life first emerged, provided that pond evaporated, got heated, and then it rained, and then the sun shone. Interestingly, the pathway from simple chemistry to complex chemistry to basic biology involves multiple mediums, repeatedly heating and cooling, dousing and drying. This is generally expected to be in solution, optimally near underwater geothermal vents or in volcanic pools near a shoreline. Other scientists had already shown that by dripping solutions of amino acids or RNA nucleotides onto a particular type of clay, it produced polymers, nucleotide precursors spontaneously assembled into RNA strands, even without the help of enzymes or ribosomes. Another team of researchers at Harvard showed how RNA could even duplicate itself without the normally necessary enzyme. An enzyme is a catalytic molecule which reacts to other molecules performing certain functions. They can metabolize food and digestion, or they can help rapidly replicate macromolecules, or make new copies of RNA. In fact, the enzyme itself is actually made of RNA. When double-stranded RNA is heated and divides, one strand contorts into a ribosome and the other becomes a template to be copied. In the field of abiogenesis research, also known as prebiotic chemistry, there are literally dozens of concordant hypotheses, almost all of which could be true at the same time. Scientists have even composed protocells with some degree of metabolic processes, something similar to the hypothesized hypercycle. So it seems like the whole hypothesis has already been substantiated, but not quite yet. What I'm saying now is a super simple summary of something that's really crazy complex. There is still the question of how such protocells would grow and divide without all of the components we know of from modern cells, which of course the most primitive cells might not even need. That, and some people want to see the whole collection of processes as a single experiment where basic chemicals are poured in and something like bacteria comes out. Not quite there yet. But speaking personally, What has always inspired me about science wasn't what was already known, but whatever we still don't know or haven't yet shown. Because that's where new scientists, perhaps even you, might contribute or discover something profound.
To do is name any of those numbers. 7. Cool. You can actually take your seat. I don't know. Can you guys all see those? Okay. It's kind of weird. Can you hear me without the mic? Good. Because I didn't prepare to say all this stuff. But so there's a number of symbols across there. There's a weird stuff and squiggles and all that, and you pick number 7, which has the X on it, which is exactly what I predicted. Yay, pictures. If there's time later, I might do something else, but I will say, one of the reasons why I talk about magic and skepticism a lot, I'm an atheist because I'm a skeptic. I think skepticism leads to atheism in the soft sense, because a critical examination of religion does not allow them to, or they have not yet met their burden of proof. And therefore the only reasonable position is to not believe it. And as we know, magicians are the experts in how we fool ourselves. Which is why James Randi, who I think was here recently, did anybody see Randi? Cool. I don't have to go over anything he went over other than to say he's awesome. And Project Alpha, which he probably talked about, where he sent in Banachek and some others to try and fool the scientists. We need more of that. And as I travel around, I've been doing magic since I was about 5. I'm going to get a hand. So as I travel around, I always like to try and find a magic shop every time I go, because they're dying out. And I like to support the arts, and it's where kids can buy really crap tricks. And then if they turn out to have an interest in it, they can get better stuff and they can learn from the experts. But the magic community is dying off to online sales. I didn't find one in Perth. Is there one? Yeah. So, start my clock. I was a fundamentalist Christian for about 25 years or so, maybe a little more. I remember walking down the aisle at around the age of 5 at a Southern Baptist church that my folks went to, accepted Jesus into my heart. Not really sure if I knew what that meant, but it felt like the thing to do. And then in my teen years, I got a little bit more serious and was active in the church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Monday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, some youth stuff in between, and then mission trips to help rebuild churches around the St. Louis and Illinois area. And like everybody else in my youth group, we were constantly in this position where we were rededicating our life to Jesus, because now I'm in church and I'm hearing it all the time and I'm starting to understand it. And so I say, there's no way I could have understood this when I was 5. So clearly all these years that I thought I was saved, I wasn't saved. So I better do it now. And then you'd learn something new and you'd do it again, kind of. And there's like this guilt cycle in place where you are expected to live up to expectations that no one can meet. You're constantly made to feel as if you're a failure in the eyes of God and that you need to work really hard to get your walk with Christ correct. And this is the cycle that I went through. Now, I was convinced, as were many of the kids in my youth group, that God wanted me to be a preacher. Some of them did go on to do that. My family, I think, was convinced of that based on some conversations. I was absolutely terrified of public speaking, so I didn't do that. Kind of ironic, since that's pretty much all I do now. And I left. Is this difficult for you when I move around? Cool. I'll be over here mostly. So there are some Christians who will say that I was never a true Christian. And I posted a video about this, kind of explaining why I agree with some of them and why I disagree with others. There are some who will say that I didn't understand the Bible, and still others say that I took it too seriously. Evidently, the Bible needs to be taken with a grain of salt, and I'll keep the salt and get rid of the book myself. Maybe I should get rid of the salt, too. So we're all familiar with some of the strange stories in the Bible that don't make much sense. Talking snakes and donkeys, miraculous war efforts that are thwarted by chariots of iron, as Aaron pointed out, floods that are survived by a single antique family in a boat that seems to be bigger on the inside than on the outside. And how did I believe this stuff for so long? I mean, there are a few lesser-known stories that I kind of explored recently I like to talk about because they illustrate a little bit about why I think I believed and how I found my way out and why it seems perplexing to me that more people don't find their way out or that it took so long. There's kind of a strange narrative going on in the Bible. When I was a believer, it always read as kind of like a collection of warnings, demonstrating God's love for us and steering us gently towards his planned conclusion. If it's difficult, it's our fault. If it doesn't make sense, it's our fault. We are limited creatures. God's ways are not like our ways. He's much wiser and sees more than we do and understands more. But when I read the Bible today, and I do, I have a completely different take. It's like a sad, dark comedy chronicling this inept God as he keeps making plans that fail and he can't seem to figure out why, and he just wants everybody to love him, and then that goes wrong, so instead of getting everybody to love him, he's just going to pick like one family, and that gets screwed up too, and now I'm going to kill everybody else and start all over. It's just a big mess, and it never gets solved. He's perfect, or that's what we're told, but instead of making perfect beings in a perfect world, he creates imperfect beings and seems somewhat surprised when they don't behave perfectly. He creates Adam, and he seems surprised that Adam can't find a suitable partner amongst all the animals. So he creates Eve. Now, I always wonder, does that mean, so like I'm God, and there's all these animals that I've created in like male and female pairs, because everything else is an abomination, but that's what he created. And then all of a sudden he gets Adam and he's like, just pick one of those. You know, koalas are cuddly. Yeah. You don't like the koala? Sheep? I was in New Zealand, so. Or is it the case that God like created only male animals and then Adam went, this just isn't working for me. And so he created females for everybody. Except for, you know, the people who weren't that interested in it, and the animals. But I don't know. But it doesn't make any sense. God's around, and he walks around in the garden in a physical form, supposedly, or something akin to a physical form, depending on which apologist you talk to. The Garden of Eden's an idyllic location, and he sets up rules that he must know they're going to break, and they do. But how can you punish someone for gaining the knowledge of good and evil? They couldn't possibly have known it was wrong to disobey before they eat the fruit and gain the knowledge. We've learned that children have to learn right and wrong. We don't hold children accountable in the same way we hold adults accountable. But this God not only punishes his new children for a mistake that is almost certainly his, he punishes all of their descendants forever for his mistake. So either he planned this, which makes it all his fault and he's a bit sadistic, or he was too inept to get it right, which makes it all his fault and he's like a bumbling oaf. And this is what I see as I read through it now. He doesn't seem to know much about sociology, culture, psychology, child rearing, or much of anything else. It's just plan after plan that fails. But, you know, if he's got a master plan and we're still heading towards that, then he planned all those failures too, right? I don't know. Why did he create anything in the first place? Why would you create imperfect beings? Is it some arrogant thing that you want to be the only perfect thing? Why create the entire universe if you're just going to focus on one little insignificant planet? Is he looking for someone to punish for ruining his plan? No, that can't be, because it was his plan for it to be ruined by the... It doesn't make any sense. So after the plan with Adam and Eve fails, he kicks them out, spread their wickedness around, somehow decides it's a good idea for them to be fruitful and multiply. Then he decides that this multiplication isn't working out so well because it's just spreading more and more wickedness. I made something imperfect, it went wrong, I decided, go spread it around, and now it's a big mess. So he's going to reboot the world, saving only Noah and his TARDIS-like boat full of animals. Surely this will fix it, right? I mean, the first plan has failed because he created imperfect beings, so the second one will surely go well if he just starts over with an imperfect being, right? It fails. And at this point, we start to spot a pattern, but at least you can make it look like, if you squint and focus, you can try to make it look like he's making a bit of sense, like he's really trying to work hard with these miserable creatures that he's created. But then the character of God starts to shift. And just a few hundred years after Noah, the population is miraculously exploded to the point where they're constructing a city and a great tower. Most of us have heard of the Tower of Babel, right? And I wonder what some of you were told about why God decided to punish them for that tower. I was told as a child that it was because the people were prideful, that they were trying to build a tower to reach heaven, and that they were wicked and arrogant, and that's why God took these people who had one language and bells, and made them speak many different languages, forcing them to scatter and create independent nations. And my first thought was, why is it wrong to build a tower to try to reach heaven? You can't reach it. I mean, we've been to the moon. No tower's going to make it that far, and we didn't encounter heaven between here and there. Plus, heaven isn't up. I mean, what's up for me right now was down for me a couple weeks ago. I figured out, by the way, that when I'm in Perth, I'm as far away from my wife as I can get without hopping on a boat or a spaceship, which I think will make her laugh, I hope. But we'll find out on Friday when I get back home. But if I were God and people were trying to build a tower to reach me, why would this bother me in the slightest? Be like, oh, look at them. Aren't they cute? They think they can build a tower to reach me. I mean, that's what you do with your kids. Oh, she's dressing up just like mommy. Well, he's dressing up just like mommy. Awesome. It's absurd. But the reason that the Bible actually gives makes the story much worse. Please open your Bibles to Genesis chapter 11. You all brought Bibles with you, right, tonight for the Bible study? All right. Well, you'll have to trust me, but you can look it up later. Genesis chapter 11, beginning with verse 4. And they said, go to, let us build us a city and a tower whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us make us a name, lest we be scattered around upon the face of the whole earth. And that's where most English-speaking pastors get this idea that they are arrogantly trying to reach heaven. But the Hebrew word that's used there merely means lofty or high in the sky. These people were trying to build a city so that they would remain unified, something to bring them together. They were trying to build a tall tower that was high in the sky, and because of differences in translation, all of a sudden modern pastors get to describe them as somehow arrogant and wanting to reach God when that's not what the book says at all. So what was God's reason for being upset with all this? Verse 5, and the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men builded. Came down. There's that notion of up again. And why would God need to come down if he's omnipresent in an air like God? He comes down a lot. It's like Adam and Eve screw it all up, and he comes down to the garden, where are you guys at? And why are you wearing clothes? Oops. He comes down to take a look at Sodom and Gomorrah. Maybe he's just a voyeur. But he comes down to take a look at the city. And in verse 6, and the Lord said, behold, the people are as one, and they all have one language, and this they begin to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them which they have imagined to do. They are unified, and and there is nothing that they cannot accomplish. That just won't do for my plan. How dare they unify and try to accomplish things? In verse 7, let us go down there, confound their languages, that they may not understand one another's speech. So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of the earth, and they left off to build the city. His plan, which keeps failing, clearly doesn't include unity or encouragement to empower people to accomplish great things. And when he is about to start to fail, he injects chaos and confusion in order to fix it. But guess what? That failed too. Because we have accomplished great things. And the more great things we accomplish, the less he seems to be able to meddle.
Working on that last layer of paint. Hot up in here now. Just about to get off too, bro.
People are having to invent new secret languages.
I got work in the morning. I don't even know what time it is right now.
So he gives up.
Yeah, it's almost 11 o'clock. I ain't even ate nothing yet. Let me eat something real quick and take my ass to bed. Alright, yeah, man, I'm out of here. Hopefully, shit. I got a busy next couple days coming up, but I need to get a long stream in here, man. Go ahead and get this paint knocked out. But I'll probably be back here tomorrow evening. Peace.